Imagine three women for a second. The first is a bright school child with a passion for chemistry. The second grades papers until late at night after putting her child to sleep. And the third rides a Royal Enfield across the Himalayas and says things like, marriage and children is something I never wanted. Three women, three generations, three completely different lives. For the better part of my adolescence, these women and so many others were fascinating. I spent weeks immersed in long conversations, in old classrooms, in my living room, even in a yoga studio, jotting down every witty remark, every powerful word I heard. Because to me, these women represented three different answers to one question. Does the modern woman choose ambition or motherhood? The first woman was my grandmother. My grandmother was married at a very young age. She had a burning passion for chemistry. I remember when I was in middle school, hunched over science homework, she would absent mindedly begin explaining chemical formulas, like she was opening an old drawer that had been left untouched for decades. I was one of the six girls to have graduated from my chemistry class, she would tell me proudly. She then confessed that she dreamt of pursuing a degree and a career in chemistry. But then life happened. Marriage happened, kids happened, duty happened. And that quiet dream sort of dissolved. So when I asked her whether women should choose between their career and family, she smiled and said something that I think about quite often. I'm happy that women have the opportunity to choose today. Then I spoke to a teacher at school, juggling deadlines, parenting, exhaustion, and as always, the scrutinizing eyes of society. I asked her that same question: maternity or ambition? Instead, she challenged the question itself. She told me that motherhood had made her someone resilient, empathetic. It had been an enrichment to her career. Yet to her, society transformed motherhood into some kind of evaluation, a test where women must tirelessly prove themselves as good enough twice over, once at work, once at home, simultaneously, forever being assessed, forever slightly guilty somewhere. Too ambitious? Bad mother. Too devoted to family? Not ambitious enough. You literally can't win. Finally, I spoke to an older friend of mine, a yoga instructor in Bangalore. She was single, childless, and planned to remain so. As I told you guys, she rode a Royal Enfield across the Himalayas all alone, which to me seems partly amazing and partly totally insane. But she said something to me that I will never forget. This is what they call freedom. She never regretted her decision. So, to me, somewhere in between these three women, I understood something crucial. There was no correct way to be a woman, not one single way that was correct. And yet, society still behaves as though there is. So, what if women aren't struggling to balance it all? What if the world they're trying to balance it in was never really built with them in mind in the first place? Because women today are told they can have it all: career, children, ambition, independence, balance, fulfillment, everything. The modern woman is expected to succeed professionally, all while remaining the emotional center of the household. She is calm. She is nurturing. She is available. She is beautiful. She is organized. Preferably all at once. No pressure. And when women struggle under that weight, the response is often individual blame. She should manage her time better. She should choose differently. She should sacrifice more. But what if the real problem is structural? The writer Nivedita Bansal expresses, here we are, living in a world where women are still trying to find their place, not as equals, but as competitors, constantly navigating a world that was created by and for men. So, this is the real question, ladies and gentlemen. It is not if women are incapable, but it is if so many systems around us are designed around male lives, male bodies, male patterns of work. Okay, let's take something simple. A car crash test dummy. You know, that mock-up mannequin that you strap a seatbelt on and send off to crash. For decades, the standard crash dummy used in safety testing was modeled on the male anatomy. Not female, male. Which means that women are significantly more likely to sustain injuries in car accidents despite following the exact same safety rules. Think about how absurd that is for a second. Half the population, but safety itself is calibrated around men as the default human being. It is just as Simone de Beauvoir says, he is the essential, he is the absolute, she is the other. And it doesn't stop there. Even the smallest things. Did you know that office temperatures are frequently based on studies of male metabolic rates? Or that medical research focuses overwhelmingly on male subjects? Career productivity rewards linear, uninterrupted work patterns, which fails to consider the glaring reality that many women face the heavier burden of caregiving and motherhood. So then we come to the so-called modern woman's dilemma. Why do women feel forced to choose between ambition and motherhood? Because the world still treats motherhood as a deviation from productivity, not a part of human life itself. Research from institutions such as Harvard and Cornell have found that mothers are perceived to be less competent after having children, whereas fathers are frequently perceived as more stable, more committed. Same event, completely different social and professional outcome. So the real question isn't, can women have it all? Rather, the better question is, why are women still expected to fit into systems that were never designed for them to begin with? Why? So, what if we could imagine something different? A world where motherhood wasn't considered a private female inconvenience. A world where flexibility at work wasn't considered to be lazy or unproductive. A world where women's bodies and women's experiences were considered from the very beginning, not added in awkwardly afterwards like some kind of software update. Maybe then the dilemma wouldn't seem so pressing, and maybe then ambition and maternity would not seem like two opposing forces pulling women apart. Motherhood would no longer be a professional liability. And success itself would begin to look different. Not women proving that they can survive in systems designed for men, but women finally having the freedom in a future we can envision to decide what fulfillment means for themselves. Thank you.